Why is it that you feel exhausted at the end of the day and you can't recall exactly what you accomplished? After 10 years of doing this ourselves, we decided to get to the real truth, and you will not believe what this accountant discovered.
And I'm that accountant, I assume. But how did we get here? Waking up to the sound of an alarm. I start the day strong with 20 minutes of meditation, cold shower, affirmations, journaling, writing down the things I'm grateful for. Then I spill protein porridge down my shirt and the traffic's bad, so I arrive at work 20 minutes late. Then Karen asks me to fill in this form by 1 p.m. I get an email about needing to renew my car insurance. My first appointment's late, another one later in the day cancelled last minute. I try to check some emails on the sly at work. Then we come home, open the other laptop that we're trying to run Propane Fitness from, get bombarded with emails and messages and check-ins. Someone's complained because they didn't hear back from me fast enough, and now I'm down a rabbit hole. The next thing you know, it's 2 a.m. and I'm on a phone call with some guy in America trying to sell him some fitness coaching. He doesn't buy. I fall into bed and then beep, 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 rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. 2 months has gone by. You feel exhausted because you've had a very busy couple of months. But if someone sat you down and said, okay, over the last 2 months, what have you actually done? You'd be like,
So what's the solution to all of this? There's a massive difference between our expectation of what we can achieve in an hour or in a day or in a week versus the reality of what we actually can achieve once you account for spilling the protein porridge down your shirt and having to fill in the forms that Karen's given you. What ends up happening is we're too afraid to let small fires burn, so instead we run around with a little tiny watering can and just sprinkle water everywhere, not really putting out any one proper fire.
So time blocking and like blocking out your day or blocking out your calendar is not a new idea. I think we probably both first heard about it through Cal Newport. Remember his blog, was it Study Hacks?
He just had a screenshot. I remember it was like a bit of paper, like a lined paper that he'd just drawn a calendar on and a block of time saying 1 p.m., 3 p.m. And it's such a stupid, simple idea of just being intentional with how you spend your time, but no one actually does it in practice.
But you know what I think the problem with that approach is? So I've tried that for years. And like for context, this is something we've been doing for a couple of days, this new approach. But I think it's had such a profound effect for us that I feel like the clouds have parted and I realize the mistakes we've made in the past. So a piece of advice you've given in countless YouTube videos, which is to separate planning from execution, right? As like a master habit. I think the problem with doing Cal's approach and waking up and then trying to plan your day is you're still kind of swept away by all the bullshit. So like you wake up, you check your email, you look at your phone, you look at your WhatsApp, you see all these things, all these messages, and you try and block your day out, but you're blocking your day out from this perspective of like, fuck, there's so much stuff to do. And the change we then made, like if you really think about it, there's no other way of making it work, is what are all of the like most important things I have to do? And when in an average week am I going to like dedicate time to actually get that done? And if you don't do that in advance, you're just always going to come up with a little reason why today's different. And like, you need to change the plan.
We call this time blocking turbo, time blocking 2.0. So
TBT.
yeah, it's
TBT?
TBT.
TBT.
This is exactly the point, that when you decide ahead of time how you're going to spend your day, if you do it in this idealized way of like, oh, I'm going to be doing all the really like big hitter important stuff, and you don't plan out the boring admin stuff, it's just going to spill into your day. So this kind of means two things: that you have to plan out the shit stuff, and we have to come to terms with our limitations and being intentional, not reactive about our time. And I think just from this experiment this week, the major thing we found is, rather than spending the entire day trying to respond to messages just in between slots and it just bleeds into everything, if we schedule out a time to do that, it feels wasteful to do that because we think, well, that's a whole hour of responding to messages, like that's such a waste. But it's like, the reality is, if you don't schedule that hour, it'll just be all day anyway.
This is actually something that I can remember you saying to me over the years. I think it's like something we've both been aware of for a long time, but never actually put into practice. And that like there is a cadence, like you have to check email or messages at some rhythm. So if you don't block it into your day ahead of time and choose to do it randomly, you'll almost certainly end up spending more time checking email and replying and doing that stuff anyway. And you'll do it with kind of one eye on the task you're trying to do, and then one eye on replying to the message. Oh, you need to reply to a message quickly because I've got this other thing to do. And you never really actually, back to what we said at the start, like you never really feel like you're doing anything. If you switch that to like, okay, on a Tuesday at 10 a.m. and 4 p.m, I'm going to open my email and sit for 30 minutes uninterrupted and reply to all of my emails. You allow yourself to, I mean, firstly, you're accepting, okay, like I'm being intentional with this rather than reactive. And that allows you to feel at peace with writing a really good reply to an email or properly processing your email. So the task gets done in a more efficient fashion and at a higher quality by just planning things out in advance.
So there's two sides to focusing on something. There's being able to focus on the task that you're doing right now, and there's also making peace with all the 1,000 other things that you're not doing right now. And by time boxing all of that stuff in the future and knowing like, oh, future me has got that handled. I don't need to worry about that right now. Mm-hmm. My entire purpose on Earth right now for the next 30 minutes is to reply to these emails. And then is it like you said this a while back, Johnny, I don't know if you even remember, 3 years ago, you were like, give your other tasks a chance rather than just letting email or inbound messages just fill up your entire day. Because then other people's priorities just always go to the top of the stack.
Yeah. I think what I like the most about it, back to that planning, that separating planning and execution bit, is it's kind of the analogy, I think, as with most things in life, comes back to training and nutrition. So if I said to you, just go to the gym 4 days a week and just do what you want in the gym, you would probably default to like training the things you kind of feel most comfortable with, or the things you make the most progress with, the stuff you enjoy doing. But you'd probably always have the thing in the back of your head of like, so for me, it would always be like, maybe not for you because your abs are ridiculous, but for me, it would be like, I should probably train abs, or like, I should probably do rear delt stuff, or like, I probably wouldn't do enough back work. I definitely never do split squats. But if I map all of that out in the week and I'm like, well, that's my training week, then I can just go in the gym and I don't have to think about that session or like, am I doing enough leg volume? Because that's already been planned out. I just have to do the session.
Well, what's the compound effect over a year of I should probably train abs today?
I feel like that we can just end the video there. That's it. If that doesn't land with you as a look, have a look at a photo of Yusuf's abs, contrast it to that quote. That's all you need from this video.
It's just so facile though, because like we're the ones that set the task. Like we set the window, and then it gets to 9 a.m. and you don't do it, and you're like, well, whose fault is that?
You just can't be trusted. None of us can be trusted. Like you have to treat yourself like an idiot, and like these are the rails that you have to run the train along for the day. If you don't follow that road, that's your fault. Like it was perfectly planned out. All you've got to do is stick to this simple plan. If you do anything else, you're an idiot.
Especially because you built the rails as well, and then you're riding on the rails and deciding, no, I think I've got a better idea. So this is why actually like part of this process that we're doing now of deliberate time boxing for everything as a trying to catch all the entire way that we'd be spending our day is asking at the end of each period, did I do what I said I would do? And then we're actually treating ourselves like children and reporting to each other at the end of the day, being like, hi Johnny, I didn't stick to my tasks today, so here's what I've done instead.
But we still aren't 100% compliant. Isn't that mad?
You just need every possible barrier rail. What's it called in bowling?
I think just
guardrail.
Yeah.
You need every possible guardrail that you can.
Yeah.
To stop you going off track.
So I think this was something it kind of, the light bulb went off for me that I said this to you the other day of, if at the end of the day, I've not done what I've blocked out, I've done other things instead, there's only two possible outcomes, or two possible causes for that. So one is that I've made a planning error. So like what I should have been doing today, there were other more important things that I should have been allocating my time to, or I should have allowed for these like emergent problems that always happen throughout the day. I'm just pretending they don't today. Tuesday's going to be perfect, but every Tuesday for the past year, I've had all these things happen, but this Tuesday I'll be fine. So I've made a planning error, or I am just coming up with it's someone going into the gym, they're supposed to do legs, but they end up just doing chest press instead, and then complaining that their legs aren't any bigger. It's like, well, why has that happened? Was there not enough leg volume planned, or have you just not followed the program?
It's so clear when it's a client who's scheduled to do legs and they come out and they've done a shoulder session. You go, why was that? And they've always got some little story as to why they haven't. But compound it over a year doesn't work. So yeah, as you say, it's either a planning error or an execution error. And most of the time it's an execution error, unless there's some crazy emergency that pops up in the day that just trashes your calendar, which can happen, but they're a lot more rare than we think, like true emergencies. So here's how we're putting this all together in practice. So we've got the goal of what do we want to achieve, and then we work backwards from that and create basically a mesocycle of what should the priorities be so that our weekly actions and daily habits match up with the goal and take us there. Then we figure out how should we be allocating our time throughout the week and at what times of the day, and then plan out every block, run those as time boxes, as Pomodoros, focus blocks, where during that block, that's the only thing that you're allowed to do. We then, at the end of each day, see how much what we did matched up with what was planned, and then send each other an end of day report.
An additional hack on top of this, so if you've seen any of Yusuf's productivity stuff or you've heard of TickTick, there's one feature it has that I've been using that keeps you extremely accountable, either whether you're staying accountable to someone else or just to yourself. So you time block out your week in your calendar. So you have these blocked out things of like, okay, at 9 a.m. on a Monday, what I'm planning to do is this bit of project work for 2 hours, for example. On TickTick, you have that as a task, and then you run a Pomodoro allocated to that task on TickTick. And what TickTick will then do at the end of the day on the calendar view is it'll mark out what the Pomodoros you did, when you did them, at the times you did them, and what you did. So you'll be able to see this comparison view of like, okay, Monday at 9 a.m. I was supposed to do 2 hours on this project thing, and I did 2 hours, 2 Pomodoros on the project thing. It's like, what the fuck was I doing for the rest of the time, right? So it forces you to look back and say, I've got this perfect plan, and if I follow the plan, it'll work. I'm just not sticking to it. Why am I not sticking to it? And then once a week, go back and revise the plan. So look at the plan and say, well, Monday 9 a.m. why didn't I do it? I had this phone call that came in that I wasn't expecting. How can I make sure that's not a problem in the future? And you slowly get closer and closer to sort of this perfect world where you have a plan and you follow it, and you'll actually reach your goals in whatever you're trying to do.
I think that's the key as well, that you slowly get better at it, because of course you try and plan something out in theory, and then you run through the week and you're like, oh, actually there was 6 curveballs here that threw me off. So then it's like, how do we integrate them into the plan so that we have some wiggle room to account for it? My massive blind spot is I assume that I'm somehow superhuman and I can schedule my entire day back to back without time for a poo or without time to have breakfast or whatever. And then it's like, of course, you take a slight unplanned gap between tasks and it shifts forward the entire day because you've got no wiggle room in the day. So you have to build in some buffer time as well.
I think for both of us, that comes from wanting to get to the end of the day and feeling like you've done loads. And you don't want to get to the end of the day where you feel like you've given yourself a really easy time, but you've got 100%. Does that resonate with you? That's definitely why I do it.
You don't want to come out of the gym feeling like you've still got another couple of sets in you.
Yep. So I did every exercise, did all the reps, but it was a bit of a short session. But actually, if the first week's like that, and you get 100% compliance on 3 exercises per session, then next week you can do 4 exercises per session, and then 5, and then you'll find the actual threshold.
It's very easy to get into the mindset of the goal is to trash myself every day, but actually that's you could trash yourself and not get anything productive done as well. So
it all comes back, just to wrap things up, to the meta framework for achieving anything, which is your 2021 realization, maybe, which is know what reps to do and do the reps. So this is, in order to build out this calendar, to build out these blocks, you have to know what you're going to spend time doing in the blocks. If you don't know what that is, get help, hire a coach, read a book, follow a plan, get something so that you gain the understanding to be able to build that out. Then build out the week, and then all you have to do is do the reps. And anybody can do that. If you have some self-awareness and you realize where you're going off piste, you can adjust the plan and make changes over time. But you've got no one to blame if you know what reps to do and you can't look back over the week and say, yep, I did. I was planned to do 10 reps and I only did 9. Okay, well, why didn't you do 10? Adjust the plan, etc.
for sure. Don't spend too long trying to know what reps to do. Like, just follow something out the box to start with. 90% of plans and books and processes and protocols and everything will work just fine, and they'll be far better than just freeballing it.